Xbox Game Pass is being called into question again, as usual, anytime there is negative Xbox news. And we'll talk about that, although I don't really think it matters at all for the gamers. Romero Games is not closing down, which is an interesting thing here after a few days of a lot of people saying that the studio was closed down. Final Fantasy IX Remake potentially is canceled. We have some more information on the Stop Killing Games petition that over 1 million people have signed, which is pretty insane. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3+4 is coming out and getting great reviews. Call of Duty Mobile has made a ton of money. So we will talk about all of this stuff. But before we do, if you do enjoy daily gaming news and content, make sure to hit the subscribe, share, like, all the stuff. Helps get the channel out there, helps grow the community. So I do appreciate it. But for now, let's jump into it. So Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3+4 is releasing on July 11th. I'm very much looking forward to this game as I love the originals. I love the first remake of 1+2. And the reviews are now out on this game and it is getting some high scores here, sitting at an 83 on Metacritic and 85 on OpenCritic, getting lots of 9s and 8s across the board. So this one looks like they did another good job here with the remakes. I mean, if you've played the demo, you get an idea of exactly what this game is like. It is very similar to 1+2 in the way that it feels and that it looks and everything, which is completely fine because those were phenomenal remakes. And I'm very excited to jump in here to Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3+4. This is a first-party Xbox release dropping day one into Xbox Game Pass after a week of people thinking that Xbox doesn't produce any games or they've lost their touch on releasing good games, which I don't believe that is the case, especially after you look at the last 2 years or so of games dropping in to Game Pass day one. And I think it has been pretty strong here. All right, next up, let's talk Xbox Game Pass, because every time there's negative news about Game Pass, the sustainability and debates always happen about whether Game Pass is here to stay or whether it's sustainable and if it's good for gaming, all of these types of things. I mean, all of the public data that has been presented to us, especially after putting Call of Duty into the services, that Game Pass is sustainable, it's doing fine, and we have the evidence in front of us as we are getting more and better and more first-party games into the service. I mean, 2024 and 2025 have been absolutely phenomenal. But of course, because of the layoffs, there is going to be digging. There's going to be people asking questions about the service and whether this was the reason why layoffs occurred. I already did a video on that. Go ahead and check that one out. I don't think Game Pass has anything to do with the layoffs that have happened last week. There is a trend in gaming. What happened at Xbox is no different than what has happened across multiple studios, multiple massive publishers throughout the last 2 years. Numbers and data are all there. And on top of that, we already know this is because of the push into AI infrastructure that Xbox also got hit alongside the entire company of Microsoft. But Christopher Dring, he went out and reached out to Xbox, and Xbox actually replied to him about how they calculate the profitability and how they came up with the Game Pass's profitable claim. And now it has a lot of people talking. I don't really think for good reason, because there's a lot of armchair accountants who obviously have no understanding how any of these things work. I'm not even saying that I do, but there is a reason why some of the best accountants probably work at Microsoft and work in making sure that their business and that their services end up being profitable at the end of the day. But Christopher Dring reaches out to Microsoft, and the response he gets here about the is Game Pass profitable claim is that he was told no first-party costs are included. Now, a lot of people are surprised by this. I am not surprised whatsoever. Whenever I thought about Game Pass, it was its own service. There's different costs that go into running that service, but the actual first-party development costs of each game that they do put out is different. I mean, they have the cost that they attribute to that on a different spreadsheet, and they sell these games on PlayStation, on PC, on Xbox itself. There's microtransactions that go along with these games. So attributing all the development costs solely to Game Pass is not surprising, and it just wouldn't make any sense to do that. But because of what Chris Dring put out here, lots of articles, lots of doom and gloom that always happens, calling into question the profitability of Xbox Game Pass. However, there is one guy on X here who does a very good job of breaking things down. That's Game Over 30. And he breaks it down as to why this does not make sense. I mean, I'll leave this up to you as to what you think, and if you think he's correct, or if you think that this is an issue from Game Pass and from not including the first party cost. But he says here, because of course they wouldn't, it would be a rare occurrence to see a corporate entity shift the cost allocation. Microsoft doesn't do much capitalizing anyway of a game / project to the catalog. It would be double dipping costs, and the final allocation of a project being successful or not would occur on the project entity, not the point of sale, which is kind of the thought that came to my mind as an armchair analyst, an armchair accountant when it comes to this. I never once thought throughout this entire time that first party development costs were included into whether Game Pass was profitable or not. Continues here and says, one of the synergies of running your own catalog is placing your games there. As you're not buying them from a third party, you don't saddle the cost of the catalog with internal purchases. That judgment happens back on the creative entity based on metrics and allocations from Game Pass sales, cross-platform sales, etc. So that is the way I looked at it when you think about the first party development costs of it. He also says here, Christopher Dring, that the costs associated with Game Pass are fees paid to third parties, marketing, service costs, and by that measure, it is profitable. So we have many doom and gloom articles now saying that Xbox lied, Phil Spencer was lying. Like, all of these things make absolutely no sense, because they can't come out and say these things are profitable, show these numbers, and tell shareholders and all of this stuff. They would be in a lot of trouble if that was the case. You even see people out here wondering if they can be caught for lying and charged with something or brought to court. Something just insane. It's been insane over the last number of days with the Xbox news. And another thing that has been crazy has been this Romero Games situation, where Xbox was funding the production, the development of their game that was going to be coming out. This was going to be a third party deal. But of course, lots of information has been going around. It is not all true. Some of it has now been clarified as well. Romero's Games is not closed. It has not shut down, as you've probably seen a lot of people spreading around over the last 3-4 days or so since these cuts did happen. They actually had to come out here and clarify what is happening, that there is false information going around about Romero Games. There's an update July 7th, 2025, they put this out saying, we want to address recent reports regarding the status of Romero Games. These reports have contained inaccuracies, and we feel it's important to set the record straight. The funding for our project was pulled, and our game was canceled. Due to confidentiality agreements, we cannot disclose the publisher's identity, though some may infer it from public information. As a result, we now have to reassess the entire staffing of our studio. Romero Games is not closed, and we are doing everything in our power to ensure that it does not come to that. Any suggestion otherwise is factually incorrect. Indeed, we were in the studio today to discuss next steps with the team. We've been contacted by several publishers interested in helping us bring the game across the finish line, and we're currently evaluating those opportunities. We appreciate the outpouring of support, and we'll share further updates as we are able. So, studio's not closed. They're looking for another publisher to come in there and help fund the game. So hopefully that is the case, and they actually get another publisher to fund this game, and we can get our hands on whatever they've been cooking up for us to play. But that has been some of the Xbox news, the fallout, I guess, over the last number of days from all of the craziness happening. Again, when it comes to Game Pass and stuff and it being profitable or sustainable, honestly, for gamers, it does not matter. Game Pass is here. Game Pass is staying. I don't see it going away at any time, and they're going to continue to add games to it. So whether they're making money or whether they're making a huge profit off of it, I don't care. I'm playing games day one on the service, and that's really, at the end of the day, all I'm looking forward to when it comes to the Xbox Game Pass service. All right, let's jump over here. Let's talk some Final Fantasy IX Remake news. This game has not officially been announced yet, but a lot of people are looking forward to it, including myself, if it does end up actually getting announced and coming out. I really hope it does, but we are now seeing some kind of conflicting things going on. There is a rumor currently right now that this game potentially may be canceled. They've had problems with development or whatever. I mean, there's been tons of cancellations throughout these last number of years, so this wouldn't be completely shocking. But this comes via Nate the Hate, who is relatively reputable when it does come to the rumors. And a source has told Nate that the project was canned, but he needs further verification. Specifically, this was on Reset Era, where he says, as of last check, it remains in development to my knowledge, but I need to do a fresh check and see what a more current status is, as I did hear a month or so ago that it was in trouble and possibly canceled. I only had one source on the cancellation possibility. I need to verify the info further. So not too sure if this is going to end up happening or whether it's canceled or not. We have to wait, obviously, for the official announcement from Final Fantasy if the game is coming out. But there's also this that is going on because people still think it's happening, and there's more evidence that it could also be happening. This also, all this information is coming out on the same day, but there's some videos that have been popping up to kind of indicate that Final Fantasy IX is happening. They say you can watch the Final Fantasy IX 25th anniversary special movie below. It shows off the iconic scenes from the popular PS1 RPG, and it is the latest in the several celebratory releases for the 25th anniversary of the game, including new artwork, new merchandise, and more. And all of this new Final Fantasy IX content has spurred on reports that a remake of the game could be on the way. So they put out this new video. You also have Nate the Hate saying that the remake has had troubles and could be canceled. We'll just wait. We'll just wait and see what Square Enix says. I hope this is one that they do end up making. I enjoyed Final Fantasy VII Remake, and I would love to see them do this with more of their older games. One of the things that has been happening in gaming that I hope gets more traction and that something gets solved here, where games that you've paid for, you will always have access to them in one way or another. There has been a petition going around with over 1 million signs on this now. Over 1 million people have signed this petition. This is the Stop Killing Games. Well, it's gotten a lot of attention around the gaming industry. In fact, the EU lobbying association responsible for the games industry has actually responded to this petition. They're suggesting that, among other objections, forcing companies who support online games perpetually would make live service titles too expensive to develop. So here is what they say. An increasing number of video games are sold effectively as goods with no stated expiration date, but designed to be completely unplayable as soon as support from the publisher ends. This is what the petition does say. And we have this here from Video Games Europe saying, we appreciate the passion of our community. However, the decision to discontinue online services is multifaceted, never taken lightly, and must be an option for companies when an online experience is no longer commercially viable. They say, we understand that this can be disappointing for players, but when it does happen, the industry ensures that players are given fair notice of the prospective changes in compliance with local consumer protection laws. They also go on here to address the arguments for players that suggest companies should allow players to run private servers. They say private servers are not always a viable alternative option for players, as the protections we put in place to secure players' data, remove illegal content, and combat unsafe community content would not exist and would leave right holders liable. And then it is claimed, due to some games being developed from the ground up to be online only, it would be prohibitively expensive for developers to develop these games in a way that could be supported when official developer support ends. So that is the response here from the EU, which obviously is not the response and the sign that everyone who signed this petition wanted to see. But there's got to be some sort of solution where you can still get access to these games, something that is created here where maybe they talk about the private servers there. I feel like they could work something out with those private servers to have that access in there and have everything to keep the players and everyone safe who are playing those games. I'm not too sure about this, but at the end of the day, game preservation is very important. And there are games that go away after you've spent your money on it. So hopefully this isn't the end of this. Hopefully some sort of solution can be worked out where if you want to play a game in 10 years from now that is offline, you're going to be able to jump in and at least have that opportunity because you've paid for the game itself. Call of Duty Mobile is massive. And now we have some more information on the amount of money it has made in its lifetime. reportedly has made $3 billion in lifetime revenue. This comes via Timur222 and the LinkedIn profile of John Matthews, the current product manager of Call of Duty Mobile. They say also the former product manager of Diablo Immortal. And per the numbers shared by Matthews, Call of Duty Mobile surpassed $3 billion in revenue and $1 billion in downloads. And Diablo Immortal, the title generated $500 million in its first year and surpassed 30 million downloads. Call of Duty Mobile is massive. It was one of those big things that I think Xbox was thinking about during the ABK acquisition, to be able to make money on the mobile user base, because Xbox really had no games or place in that arena. Obviously, with these massive games, they now do. Call of Duty Mobile will continue to grow. It's huge. And it's pretty fun. If you've ever played it, it is a quick jump in and have fun first-person shooter if you want something aside from the actual main game that you got on your consoles and on your PCs. But that's it for me. I'm going to end the video there, guys. If you did enjoy this video, make sure to hit that thumbs up. If you are new here, hit that subscribe, and I will catch you guys in the next video.